Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan, of the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast today, joined by Ben Roy Turner.
Hello there.
And Ash Millman.
Also, hello there.
To approach a proper spicy meatball of gaming controversy that kind of made its way onto the internet this week, and that is, of course, the subject of leaks. Now, leaks are part and parcel of the gaming industry. We've kind of, anyone who's familiar with the channel, we report on them all the time because they're usually very interesting, even if they turn out to be bollocks, because that is just the way of the machine. And, there are all sorts of different things. They can either be true or false. It could just be some dorky internet person in the corner of their room just going, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to have something in it, and then maybe it might be interesting. We don't know. But obviously this week there was kind of a leak that we weren't a fan of, and that was The Last of Us 2 kind of making its way onto the internet, and everyone who cares about that franchise kind of basically suffering just the most horrendous anxiety ever. And Ben Roy, I'm sure you've muted every single variation of Last of Us that you can actually find on Twitter.
The only words I've ever muted in my life on Twitter, because I like to feed off the rage of things that annoy me on Twitter, like fuel me, let's keep going, let's go. But this, I'm terrified. I'm scared about talking about it now, because I feel like my phone's going to listen to me. I'm going to get thumbnails suggested on YouTube, like I did for Jedi Fallen Order and had that spoiled for me.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. This is probably the biggest video game leak we've had in a long time, and it's legit, and it's forced their hand in a big way.
Yeah, it is really scary. I also don't mute things on Twitter. Mostly because I didn't know how to until now. I'm just an absolute tech idiot. But yeah, came across this and was like, oh boy, no, and muted all the different words and everything. It is the biggest, scariest leak that I think we've had, or that I have definitely had. It's very overwhelmingly, oh my god, I really don't want this game ruined. And that it's come about at all is quite surprising, I think.
Yeah, no, and the most interesting variation of this as well is obviously it sucks for both the fans and the developers and the publisher to a degree if a game ever leaks, and the interesting kind of thing here is that reportedly the person who has leaked this footage of The Last of Us 2, of all these different intricate, elements of the story, is actually a disgruntled Naughty Dog developer / tester. It's kind of unverified at this moment of time. We don't know if it's actually true, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the kind of the reputation that Naughty Dog has developed over the past few years. Big crunch culture apparently at the studio, and outlets like Kotaku, journalists like Jason Schreier, they've really been holding kind of a light to this practice in the industry, and doing their best to make sure that the normalization of crunch culture, kind of fades away, because it is endemic throughout the industry. And Naughty Dog, who have a proper passion for perfection, they basically have a really bad reputation for this. And it seems as though if the culture is that bad, and they wrote to Last of Us 2, Jason Schreier actually wrote an article about, the kind of how the other month there was a construction accident that nearly actually, could have fatally injured some employees there who were working overtime. Basically said, he had this quote, and it's really damning, from one of the developers who said, "This game is really good, but at a huge cost to the people." And then later in the article, Schreier himself says, "Naughty Dog has built a culture of perfectionism where games have to be great no matter the human cost." And it seems as though this developer, if they are actually, a developer, has lashed out probably due to these practices.
Yeah, it's not quite BioWare magic, because I think people still like Naughty Dog's games. But if it was weird, because if it was at a point where their games weren't critically praised, I think there'd be a lot more bashing in this. Kind of like how we had with the Red Dead 2 towards the end of that came out, where it was like, oh, we work 100 hours, haha. But especially with Last of Us 1, Neil Druckmann went on record saying that game, if it wasn't delayed and they didn't crunch on it at the end, it would have been a 6 or 7 rather than the 9 or 10s it got. So and they've never really, seems like they've gotten out of that sort of thing. And with that whole industry as well, where we get to this point where we all have set plans. You'll have to have a money man somewhere, someone with a load of money going, okay, I need this from here, I need dates, and I need targets met. But it's the weird thing about art is when you try and say monetize art in such a way, things just change. I would like to know what happened with this game and what happened with The Last of Us 1 and other Naughty Dog games like Uncharted 4, for example. What happened with them and what takes the money man's plan from one point and then throws a spanner in the works and causes all these people to have to work umpteen hours and like cause them stress. And what is it with I think, was it BioWare or was it Rockstar what they had stress casualties, or was it even Naughty Dog? It's all these studios are so guilty of it, and we kind of overlook it for the quality of the products. But yeah, it's something that is becoming far too common all the time. And
I think there's like, sorry Ben, I just jumped in there. I'll let you finish your sentence.
I was just whirlwinding around the same sort of point that I was like, crunch is bad, and I don't know, I want to know how this kind of happens and how we get to this point, because this is obviously why this person has leaked this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this whole thing, like you say, that it's an art, and it is like artistry. It's crafting something creative, and there is never an end point when it comes to creative work. It's always what can be better, what can be improved on. If you do a painting, you never look at a painting and go, that's done. Like there's always another stroke you can add. There's something else you can add. I did a painting of a cat the other day, and I ended up with about 10,000 whiskers because I was like, oh my god, I don't know how many whiskers it needs. And I feel like there's that kind of culture around video games, but it comes at a much higher cost of human time and effort. Like it's one thing for someone to look at their own work and go, right, I want to keep on doing this, I keep on doing this, I keep on doing this, because there is people that want to do that and want to make it perfect and care so much about what they're doing. And then it's entirely another when someone's standing over your shoulder going, add another whisker, go on, add another whisker, and you're like, it's fine, I've done what I need to do, and they're like, add another whisker,
please, Mr. Rockstar, we don't need to see this horse's testicles shrink in the cold. Please leave me alone.
Make his balls better now.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think you mentioned earlier on, Ben Roy, that you feel as though it's been more normalized recently, and I feel as though, disturbingly, this isn't a case of like a recent phenomenon. I think it's just the fact that we've actually got people shining a light on it now. We'll pivot from crunch culture for a second just to talk back on leaks and stuff. When this actually emerged, I think was it last week? I believe the thing came out, or was it earlier this week? I've lost track of time because I'm inside all the time. But Jason Schreier actually chimed in on it again. He said, no matter how angry you are about your workplace conditions or your pay or whatever else, leaking your whole game just hurts all the other people who were in the trenches with you. So many better ways to channel that rage. That sparked some interesting follow-up comments from people, which we'll kind of get into a second. But he also added that it's amazing how many people responding to this don't seem to get that devs at Naughty Dog, including a couple that I just talked to, can be both infuriated by crunch culture and devastated that their hard work just leaked. This action doesn't just hurt management, it hurts workers. So yeah, the kind of criticism that Schreier's initial comment kind of generated was the fact that he as a journalist is, one of the best journalists in the gaming industry. I think we could all agree. He's done so much to actually shine a light on crunch culture in video games. He's always getting scoops behind the scenes and doing stuff. But there is another thing to factor in there, and that how a lot of his most successful stories have come from leaks themselves. Not necessarily, leaking entire stories or whatever. He's never done that, but in terms of getting ahead of actual industry announcements and official things and doing that, and there was a bit of a false equivalence I felt was going on there, where people were saying, well, you've benefited from leaks in the past, how can you then condemn this Naughty Dog worker for doing that? And I kind of wanted to get both of you guys' thoughts on this as well, because I thought it was a bit of a false equivalence. There were people who I actually really admire who were kind of going in on that angle as well, but it wasn't necessarily something that I personally agree with. I think there's a massive difference between leaking the story for a video game and throwing your colleagues into the burst, no matter the industry conditions going on, and a journalist getting a scoop ahead of an official announcement. Even, of course, there are undue consequences with that as well, which you can talk about too.
I think personally, looking at it from like the outside in, it's one thing ruining a whole story or releasing all the spoilers for a major story that everyone is invested in before it's had a chance to come out is taking away an experience and like a profit for a company, but an experience for everyone out there. It's like robbing people of the chance to actually have it for the first time and see what's going on. Whereas a leak beforehand of a game that's coming out before official announcement isn't taking anything away from the experience or the end product of what it's meant to be for everyone who's involved with it and everyone who's going to consume it. It's more just drumming up hype. It can be used to drum up hype. Obviously, there's arguments either way, saying, okay, well, there's a marketing team that's gone together to make the best announcement possible. Is leaking it? Is leaking a game before it's had its official time to go, okay, hey, that's coming out, a good thing or not? But I think at the end of the day, that's a completely different type of leak, because it's not taking away from the end product, whereas this story one very much is, oh, you want to play this? Well, you're never going to have the experience that you signed up for, that you were looking forward to, or that you wanted, because here's all the details, here's everything that you need to know. One is, oh, I'm very excited for a game. The other is, oh, you're excited for a game, here's everything in it. Oh, I love this book series, here's the spoiler for number 7 where everyone dies. Like there's I think you're right in saying it's a false equivalence. There is obviously pros and cons to either, mostly cons, but like definitely to the story one. But like one is used as a marketing tool, one is, this isn't a tool at all. It's a strike, like, you know what I mean? It's an attack.
Almost like cutting your nose to spite your face in a way, I think, is kind of the thing that people are getting at here. What did you think, Ben Roy?
Yeah, it's a hard one because, as you said, like if you look at the replies to Jason, for example, and just see people just quoting all his stories and, oh, blah, 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 leaked. It's like, well, for example, you can't tell the way he's come at it when he's like just tweeting something. And yes, if something's out there, it's weird. It's like, what do you do? Just not do it, and then someone else sort of leaks it. It's such a hard thing to answer without me going, well, actually, you should leak it because screw those guys. I want the money, or I shouldn't leak it. But then someone else is going to do it. It's weird. It's like a tale of two things. Like, I would say Jason's right for saying that the person who did it is a fool of a toque, I'm going to say, because that's all I can get away with saying on YouTube anymore. And they shouldn't have done it. But then, yes, you don't then go barrage a man for saying, oh, this person was bad for doing it, because that person has basically gone nuclear and ruined how many hundreds of people's work throughout 7 odd years and all this planning and like, just think the money that's gone into this thing just because, I mean, I say just because they didn't get something that was they thought was promised to them. And it shouldn't be a case of we're all pointing fingers and saying, well, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. It probably just shouldn't have been linked in the first place, to be totally honest. And I think I answered your question there, Ewan, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you did. It's the thing that gets me is that I have massive sympathy for the person that has done this. I think it's absolutely unequivocally the wrong thing to do. But I understand if you feel that desperate in that situation, you feel as though no one's listening to you, and you've hit the nuclear option. I think, it's done with undue care and diligence towards your fellow workers. And I, again, like Shrai said in his tweets there, people are evidently upset at Naughty Dog over this, and I imagine the vast majority of them will be. You've poured blood, sweat, and tears into this game, for better or for worse. Maybe they don't have a choice in doing that, but it was still their labour at the end of the day. And then someone else who has kind of suffered and toiled along with them has then kind of basically thrown all that work and put that there. And it's a thing for me is, we've titled this discussion, "Is it ever right to leak a game?" And I'm curious to see whether or not this reaction, even though it would be penalised under whatever circumstance, I am curious to see whether this is a wake-up call for Naughty Dog. If this is going to continue, you have people with access to your games, and they'll be involved with every intricate level of the process of development. Can you afford to continue like this if it risks sabotaging the actual end experience of players? Could there be an undue positive consequence for something that in the here and now is obviously very, very crappy for both fans and the people who worked on the game? And that's the interesting kind of nuance that I'm trying to get at.
I'm really confused how they got the leaks out as well, because I know when I used to work in like film TV, like we were working in buildings that had internet access, but there was like one computer in a room full of like 8 that had any access to the outside world, and even that was monitored and like you had to go through due processes to get stuff out. So it's really weird how they got, not only was it cutscene footage and also other story, like you could easily type things out on your phone and like post that to the internet, but the veracity of these leaks is like mad. And for me, I know that when we did work on some projects, I'd sign my life away on like projects like even if I just go, yeah, by the way, I worked on blah 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 blah, then I'll be dead. I'll be dead.
You get the black helicopters coming right down, like, Ben Roy, how dare you spoil this film?
Exactly, yeah. And it's just if they this person's going to get like sued to oblivion, I'd expect, and also never work in the industry again. Like, I would say it's not right to leak a game, even though I lap it up when it's something I don't care. Like, I'm not personally invested. I don't say I don't care. Personally invested as much as this, but with this, I am going to be sitting in the corner of a room for 2 months, crying, and hopefully this doesn't like happen. Like, this is a sequel to probably one of the biggest games ever, and personally my favorite.
Yeah, I think the question of whether it's right or not is obviously a moral standpoint, and what you think the gains and losses are. I think that the issue that Naughty Dog have needs to be addressed, and that he has addressed it in whatever way he thinks is appropriate. Obviously, lots of people don't agree, and there's lots of negatives to it that have hurt more people in the situation than maybe it was thought. You don't know if this was just kind of like a, oh my God, I'm just going to drop this, here you go. Or if it was a very meticulously planned out thing. Either way, I feel like the issue needs to be addressed, and this is the only way they felt that they could do it, and that it's got so much attention and has brought so much media over to it is what they were after, and what they've got, and hopefully will solve the issue that they've had. But that it's come at this cost does feel... It's upsetting for the people who don't know what's going on, who aren't involved in the process, and then are just hoping to turn up in a couple of months and go, okay, nice game. Like, it takes all that away from all those people as well, from all the casual players, as well as all the people who are very invested, heavily catching up with everything that's going on at any given moment. Do we know that all the leaks are actually like dead on, bang to rights, like actually what's happening?
Right, I haven't investigated, because even though I'm not particularly like, I would not be as devastated if The Last of Us 2 got spoilt for me, as opposed to if when Spider-Man came out or when Red Dead came out, if that got spoilt for me, I would have been distraught. I really like the first game, but I don't have that personal attachment to it that I think a lot of people do. So I personally, I don't stand to lose too much, but at the same time, I'm not looking. And I think the generally consensus online is that the veracity of these leaks is not in question, are they, Ben Roy? I think they're pretty solid.
It's like all the whole thing, and the fact that you know it's effing serious, because they went from we don't know when this game's ever going to launch to it's coming out in June. It's coming out in June, and I would just want to go back to when actually I think it's bloody. You shouldn't leak anything. Like, spoil it. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, stewing and getting more angry. Is like again, I refer to someone who would. You have that code, like you get this job and you don't get this job, and like, yeah, we're all humans, we all have like tough times, but you don't just then go, blah, I'm just going to destroy this. Like, I don't think I would have ever like felt like great after the first initial leak. If I leaked something or things like that, it's wrong to do it, and you sign a contract and you want to work on this sort of like level or in this sort of industry, you just don't do it. It's like, the more I think about it, the more it just feels like.
But that makes sense, because you actually bring a valuable perspective here, because you have actually worked in this industry and you understand, NDAs and the actual process of working on something that is so closely guarded as a secret. And the thing that gets me about this as well isn't just that he's like this person hasn't just kind of ruined everyone else's hard work. He's basically nuked his own career. No other studio, if they discover who actually did this, is ever going to work with this person ever again, which is an incredible development.
I was actually there for a leak one time. This is like, just a bit of it, like it was do you remember on Top Gear when that eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing got sent out to the press? That Clarkson said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch naughty words by a toe.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I was there, I was working in the building like when that happened, and we were all questioned, and it was proper like, I'm terrified. And it turned out a freelance person who worked for them did it. But being in that situation where you find out something's leaked, and even though it's not part of a story, it's just a major thing. I don't know how these things get out.
Well, go on, Ash.
Oh, sorry. I think you saying that. I think you saying you're getting angry and that like thinking about this is something that you definitely don't do. I think that goes away to lend itself as to what mindset this person must have been in as well, and how rough it must have been, and how much you obviously must think, I don't know what else to do other than just nuclear option, hit the button and blow it up. So I think that it affects you that way, Ben, where it's probably lends even more credence to this person being at the end of their rope with not knowing what to do and how to fix the issue and being frustrated with nobody being able to fix the problem. And that if it gets this really serious industry-wide plague sorted out, I think that is definitely a crumb to take away from it of going, at least that has happened. I don't think it's right to have leaked the game, but I do think taking the crumb of positivity of going, okay, well, at least this is being focused on is I'm trying to reach for something. It's something.
Yeah, it's over money, and money will change people a lot. And like, we don't know what money was promised to this person or in what veracity. But yeah, I mean, I hope that person wasn't in a place where they couldn't afford to live. But at the same time, like, we will never know the full story. But yeah, it's like, again, there's always two sides, and it's.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, we talk about leaks. There's it's a big thing in like Hollywood trades as well with films. We always see the likes of Deadline or Variety or Hollywood Reporter. They always seem to get the scoop before an official announcement. And, whether it's with games media like Kotaku or other leaks that come out on sites like Reset Era or whatever, it definitely does feel as though we are fundamentally like wedded to leaks. I feel as though they're a difficult thing to get rid of. They're such a vital part of like games press and the industry cycle. And let's not forget either that companies, kind of video game publishers and figures there, they actually encourage leaks. They're a great tool to drum up hype, to most people in the games industry, people who see, games journalists and outlets like any outlet, they easily see them as free advertising, and that's the thing that is a thing to consider as well, is, what do they stand to gain from certain leaks coming out? And it is one of those things where, as someone who has never worked in that industry, I will never understand the actual individual moving parts and how they come together. Say you've got an announcement for the new Batman game being, scheduled to be dropped around like June. What do you gain from then intentionally leaking that information out to the press that an announcement is coming in June? Why not just wait for that initial announcement? And it's one of those things where, again, I feel as though it's kind of beyond my realms of understanding because it's something I've never personally experienced. And that's why this entire chat is more just me just being like, well, I'm just kind of ethereally thinking about these different things. I don't know. What, blah, blah. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys feel as though there is kind of like an endemic leakiness? And I know we kind of got earlier on about how we don't think the two... It's all porous like a second-year student flat. Yeah. It's not like the idea of, we've already mentioned how we definitely think the story leaks are completely different and it's a false equivalence to actually, try and say that they're the same thing as like, reporting on a video game announcement before it's come out. But do we feel as though the leaking culture, as it were, is that something we need to address? Or are we content with this being a thing?
The word leaking and leakiness is just popping me silly. I can't cope with it. I think as long as they're using it to their advantage, the rightness of leaking comes from whether the company themselves. It sounds like a tenor lady advert. This the rightness of leaking comes from whether the company can use it as a tool for themselves or not. Whether it is a tool for them or whether it is something that halts their progress or messes up things that they had planned for the consumer. Because obviously this is coming from a place where it's I think something is being made for people to consume. And if you look at it from that very baseline way, saying, okay, this is leaked beforehand, like an announcement is leaked beforehand, at least you're getting everyone to go, ooh, well, this leak could be interesting, like this announcement could be interesting. And then their ears are open, their eyes are open, waiting for it to happen. Even if they know when it's coming and it's been basically leaked that something's going to happen in June, this game is coming in June, or this announcement for this game is coming in June, you sit there for however many months it is, April, May, June, 2 months, and be like, okay, cool. I've got 2 months to wait to see if that actually happens or not, where you're building up excitement and you're remaining wary of it until June. And then in June, you're paying more attention to these outlets and seeing if it actually comes to fruition and if you can trust these sources and all that sort of thing. So I think it brings about a level of hype, a level of investment, and it brings more people into the fold who might not necessarily be interested as devoted players are of a franchise. Like if it was something new, like if you're a new studio bringing out a new game and then just having a really cool description of it could get loads of people interested, and that would be a really positive way of doing a leak. Or if it's something that, like Elder Scrolls 6 getting a leak and people being able to hype up that gets everyone talking about it again, gets it back in media, gets people going, oh, maybe I should play 5, 4, this sort of thing. So I think the leakiness of video game industries is it's just a natural part of it to keeping it like in mainstream eyes and that sort of thing. I think that is a natural good part of it and something that we all love talking about. Everybody loves rumours and gossip. Rumour mills and gossip is what human nature thrives on. Leaks are gossip and rumours. They are what we go and hunt out for, what we fish out for, what we want to see because they're exciting little tidbits. If everything was released when it was supposed to be and nobody felt naughty talking about it, then it wouldn't be half as exciting an industry as it is, talking about it from, not obviously the games are exciting, but talking about it from a surface level of the actual talking about games. I think that's an important part of it. But I have gone on for 500 years, so please, someone else jump in.
I'm going to say, like, as humans, I like being naughty. You like to get, do this. Do you want to be a bit
I like
naughty
being naughty. Ben Roy Turner, 2020. That's on the permanent record.
Yeah, it's out there forever now. But, like, there's an example, like, WhatCulture.com, WhatCulture Gaming and everything. We will report certain amount of leaks. Like if someone's gone and taken a picture of someone on the end game set, of course we there's been this and we speak about it. Or if there's been the 7,000th Batman rumor leak thing, Ewan is
damn sure I'm gonna be there.
Wherever Ewan is in this world, he is going to report on it. But then
I'm just silent at night, and then the rumor hits the internet, and I just do that Michael Myers rise up from like the first Halloween.
It's the bat beacon of the internet just shining out too.
Exactly, but there's like so we're not innocent. We've never not done any of that. But like for example, this again, it's just the scale of it. Like you won't see us reporting and then putting the whole list of everything on WhatCulture on any of the YouTube channels or the website because it's just not going to happen. Because it's like it's another scale. It's like another level. It's gone from like let's have a fist fight to this person's brought a trident. Why has he got a trident? I don't know. But now that trident is in the atmosphere and now everyone can see it. Like
I think.
I was going to say, if Joel had a trident, I'm going to keep this trident giving it. I'd be like, okay, I find out he's got a trident. But if then you go, Joel, blah, 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 and then I find out the whole game, then I'm like, that is too far.
Yeah, I think there's an inherent difference that should be pointed out that we report on leaks, we don't leak the leaks.
Yes.
So that's probably the difference. It's whether the leak itself is more in the question than the reporting on it. Because I think reporting on it is just again a natural part of the industry. I think that's what people do with the gossip and everything. But it's whether it should go out there in the first place, whether the people close to it think, this is a useful tool for getting up hype and getting people excited, or I'm gonna burn these people with my hot trident of fury.
Also, like I was going to say, this trident is always going to get out because think of how many hundreds of people work on the trident. It's going to be exposed at some point. But the thing is, you're always going to have a leaky, even if there were no more trident,
leaky trident.
Even if the trident never got out again, you would have some other goblin somewhere going, by the way, there's a trident leak. And then they would go and put it out there. And then it would happen because we all love the word leak in a title because we all want to click on it. We're all going to click on it because we see a silhouette of that trident and then we see leak.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think in a very metaphorical and ethereal way, we've all kind of come down to the conclusion that I feel as though I was already at before this video kind of came out. I think, leaks are part and parcel, and I feel as though there is that distinction, that vital distinction that must be made between reporting on something that, is a matter of the industry and actually going out of your way to spoil an actual piece of media, like the MCU leaks or Last of Us leaks or whatever. And that's one thing that maybe we can end on here is questioning. Obviously, Ben Murray, you've worked in film before. You understand that you kind of touched on earlier on about the various ways that studios or production companies or whatever will go out of their way to make sure, to make the net as thick as possible, not porous, to actually make sure that no leaks get out. How would you think? How difficult is it to leak something? And apart from obviously Naughty Dog changing their culture, because it's evident that they probably do at this stage, how do you go about actually restricting leaks from happening more frequently? That is my question. Ignoring the idea that studios obviously intentionally leak stuff as well, but certainly the story spoilers or whatever.
You take people's phones off them as they come in the door. That's like, I know I've worked for some places where I know that they do that, but no, like luckily I never had to be in one of those situations. Like certain projects would be like, you cannot take a phone past this point, and I've worked in places with like key card doors and crap like that. But yeah, you either just got to, and also treat your employees right and like pay them if they need to be paid. That is a big thing. But yeah, like you work on things where it's like your phone's not going in there, but then like I could I could sit in there and I could be working on a thing, hold my phone up for the people that are like listening, and just done that, and then that's how things get out so quickly. But then you notice like I think of all these massive things like Star Wars and everything like that, and Endgame. We didn't really get the whole story leaked or major things, and it's because I guess they also do a thing where certain people only get access to what they're involved with.
You have to go looking for it, I think.
Yeah.
I know Sai was very involved in terms of looking at every Endgame leak and rumor that was going out, but certainly I feel as though there was a general reluctance from people who work in our industry who, let's face it, we're all fans. We don't want to have stuff spoiled for us. We can have a talk about whether we put too much value on spoilers for another time, but no one here wants to have an experience ruined for them. We're all fans at the end of the day. So there's a general reluctance from the media to look at the rumor, to look at leaks like that, and generally proliferate them and disperse them or whatever. So I feel as though that is something as well to bear in mind as a factor that we as a media do our best not to ruin story surprises, because everyone on some level respects the craft and doesn't want people to have their experience ruined.
I imagine. I imagine Naughty Dog is now going to put a lot of extra security in their building, and you're also going to be limited to certain parts, and they're probably going to be a lot more stricter about it from now on.
Yeah, I think there's. I think it just goes to be said that there's the difference in spoilers and what we talk about, what we produce is people haven't had a chance to experience this for themselves. People haven't had the opportunity to go, oh, this is how this feels for me. This is how it's played out. This is so lovely. This is so horrible. Either way, they haven't had a chance to form their own opinion before they're being given the information. Whereas the sort of stuff that like outlets and reporters and stuff do, it's usually been out a while. Like you've had something out and then you talk about the story after people have had a chance to go and see it or mark it as spoilers or this, that and the other. It's all stuff that people have free access to, whereas this is such a privileged position that he's come from, and a trusted position and that they have come from, and it's and then blowing that open and taking things away from the people who are going to engage with it the most and enjoy it the most. It just takes away, it's the whole first experience thing. That's what spoilers are so annoying for. But again, spoilers is a much bigger, different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, have you got any more to add, Ben Roy? Or
I was just going to say again, I hope this person is okay. But again, you just don't do it. Like not to that thing. Not to that like veracity. Like also, you're just gonna ruin it for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, please let us know what you think on this topic of leaks down in the comments below. Do you have a leaky ceiling, or do you think that the video game industry has too many of them? And do you think there is ever a right time to leak a video game? Please let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming on YouTube. Or what platform are we listening on? Every single podcast thing in the world? I'm not a good podcast host. I don't know which platforms we're on, but
iTunes, Acast, I think Spotify are the main ones we're on.
There we go. Said with general casualness. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at YouVarious Things. You can follow Ben Roy on Twitter at.
You can follow me at Ben Roy Turner, and also don't read the comments because there's probably going to be spoilers in them.
Yeah, stay away from the comments. You can follow Ash on Twitter at.
I would say, go to the comments. Do not go to the comments. You can follow me on Twitter at Ash Milburn.
Cool, and we'll see you all next time. Hopefully when nothing's leaking. I'm not porous. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ewan Porison.
That's what they're calling for duty.
It's raining, it's pouring. I'm going to go and snore.
Oh, there he goes.
It didn't even rhyme.